Back to politics. The Washington Post report on malware connected to the Russian hacking operation being found at a Vermont electric company is renewing the focus on threats to the country's electrical grid. But no new reaction this morning from the president-elect, as he is set to meet with intelligence officials next week. For analysis, let's bring in Nina Turner. She's an MSNBC political analyst and a former state senator from Ohio. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Betty.
So will this new report change Trump's outlook once he meets with intelligence officials next week?
Well, let's hope. I mean, one thing that we can say about President-elect Trump is that he is predictably unpredictable.
That is true.
So I'm hoping that he will, take these matters seriously. I think in some ways he is equating the fact that the intelligence community in our country have linked Russia to not only what is happening with the grid, but other things. He's kind of taken this personal in that it delegitimizes his presidency, especially the hacks to the DNC and others. And so I think he needs to separate the two.
But if you look at some of his tweets, and he has been very forthcoming with them, he did say he's waiting to hear and he's looking forward to that report next week. So it sounds like he's going to reserve judgment until he gets information. At least that's what we're gathering from the tweets that he puts out. What is your reaction to those in the Trump camp and Republican lawmakers who say President Obama's sanctions against Russia was his way of boxing in the president-elect?
I mean, again, politics as usual. The president says the sky is blue. The Republicans will say, no, not quite. So, this is not surprising, but I think Democrats should have, the president should have, knowing that they believe and they suspected that the Russians were involved in this, and having our intelligence agencies across the spectrum have information and data that pointed to the Russians, it might have been better to bring this stuff out before the election. I do understand why the president hesitated to do that, but, in the whole notion, if you know something, say something, do something, that should have been done earlier.
Well, that's what a lot of people are crying foul about, is if you knew about it, why didn't you say something? Because don't you want to stop it while it's happening?
That's right. And the whole notion that Democrats were waiting to see whether or not Secretary Clinton would have won the election, and that is why he may not have come forward with that, that is not a good rationale. If you do feel that this country is being threatened by a foreign force or even a domestic force to this degree, then you have to come out and say something earlier. Now, that being said, the enormous weight that is on any president of the United States, people certainly can understand that. But I firmly believe, and others that I've talked to, that we should have got this out earlier if we knew.
I want to turn to what's being called the Day of Action. Senator Sanders is leading the charge to hold President-elect Trump accountable when it comes to preserving entitlements like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Sanders, along with Democratic leaders Schumer and Pelosi, are asking their colleagues to help plan rallies on Sunday, January 15th, the day before MLK Day. So what kind of pressure are the Democrats hoping to put on the Republican Party?
People power pressure, and they couldn't have a better leader in that. Senator Bernie Sanders is the best at it. He showed throughout this presidential election that you can galvanize millions of people throughout this country to come together on causes of what is just, what is right, and what is good. So they certainly have the right one at the helm. And again, to hold President-elect Trump accountable for what he said on the campaign trail. I mean, Betty, he said that he would protect Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. We know that there are millions of people in this country, and especially when we think about our elders, who but for some of those programs would be living in abject poverty. And so we cannot allow the Republican agenda to take that away. And President-elect Trump is on the opposite side of many of his Republican colleagues, especially those in leadership, when it comes to preserving those types of programs. And so we got to put the pressure on President-elect Trump. That's number one. But also, coupled in that pressure is also to show him that millions of people in this country will support his efforts to preserve those programs.
And before I let you go, I want to get your take on voting rights. Take a look at some of the restriction that we have seen. And leading up to this year's election, across the country, more than 800 fewer polling locations than in 2012 and 2014. In Florida, North Carolina, Wisconsin, the early voting period was cut down to mere days. And in your state, 400,000 registered voters were purged from the rolls without notice. So what are you keeping your eye on in 2017?
Well, it's a flat-out shame, Betty, and since the election of President Obama, my Republican colleagues have been trying to strip away voting rights all across this country. The gutting of the VRA, that is not the way a representative democracy should perform, and that certainly is not how people who are elected, who depend on people to vote for them for a living, should respond. And so we got to continue to push. I'm hoping that Democrats will continue to push, and also some Republicans who believe that the VRA needs to be strengthened. We have to do that, Betty. Many of these things, this is an omnipartisan. The whole notion that we would have one woman, one man, one vote is an omnipartisan issue. And the democracy, all of those beautiful words, how we praise the foundations of this country is really based on everyday women and men in this country being able to exercise their right to vote, being able to express their will through the power of the ballot box, and let people go out and compete. But you shouldn't cheat. You shouldn't try to rig the system. You got to earn those votes, and we can do a much better job in this country. I think choice voting should be something that we should debate. The Help America Vote Act, that money is dried up. We need more machines. We need more machines that are up to date in this country.
So you're saying take action now. Don't complain later and say, oh, why didn't we do something? The election is upon us. Take action now.
Ahead of time, and both parties sometimes are guilty of not standing up for voting rights, Betty, only when it is in their interest. And it should always be in the interest of us in the United States to ensure that everybody, no matter who they want to vote for, has that right to exercise the vote.
All right, former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, thank you and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Betty.